Welcome back to our series on the later move. Today, we'll be diving into one of the most fleeting and tragic reigns in the MPR's history. That of RAFI UD. His story isn't about grand battles or magnificent monuments. It has a stark illustration of just how powerless the Mughal throne had become by the early 18th century. Imagine being an emperor, the so-called shadow of God on earth. But in reality, you're just a pawn in a much larger game. That was the life of RAFI UD Darajat. So, how did he get there? To understand his story, we have to talk about the real power brokers of the time. The Syed brothers, Abdullah Khan and Hussein Ali Khan. By 1719, these two nobles had become the ultimate kingmakers of Delhi. They had just deposed and brutally ended the reign of the previous emperor. Now, they needed a new puppet, someone they could easily control to legitimize their own authority. Their choice fell upon a young, frail prince named RAFI UD. He was a grandson of Bahadur Shah I, but he had spent his life in the relative obscurity of the royal harem, far from the intrigues of the court. He was perfect for the Syed's plan. In February 1719, RAFI UD Darajat was brought out of the Red Fort's confines and placed on the peacock throne. But this was no glorious coronation. It was more like a business transaction. The young emperor was sickly, inexperienced, and completely overwhelmed. From day one, it was clear who was really in charge. The Syed brothers controlled every aspect of the administration. They made all the appointments, signed all the decrees, and managed the empire's finances. RAFI UD Darajat's role was purely ceremonial. He was the face of the empire, but he had no voice. He would appear at the Jaraka, the royal balcony, for the public to see, creating the illusion of a functioning monarchy. But behind the curtains, he was a virtual prisoner in his own palace. His reign was incredibly short, lasting only about 3 months, but it was packed with turmoil. The Syed brothers' ruthless ambition had earned them many enemies. Almost immediately after RAFI UD Darajat's succession, a rival faction of nobles proclaimed another prince, Nicusia, as the emperor at the Agra fort. This was a direct challenge to the Syed's authority. A siege of Agra began, and the empire was once again thrown into a civil war. While armies clashed in his name, Emperor RAFI UD Darajat was wasting away. He was suffering from tuberculosis, and his health deteriorated rapidly in the tense, suffocating atmosphere of the court. The Syeds, realizing their puppet emperor was not long for this world, were already looking for a replacement. By June of 1719, RAFI UD Darajat was so ill that he could barely function. It's said that he himself requested to be replaced by his older brother, RAFI UD Daulah. The Syed brothers agreed. They quickly deposed him and placed his brother on the throne. Just a week or so after being removed from power, RAFI UD Darajat succumbed to his illness and died. He was barely 20 years old. His reign was one of the shortest in Mughal history, a mere footnote in the grand timeline. But his story is incredibly significant. It symbolizes the absolute nadir of imperial authority. The emperor was no longer a ruler. He was a rubber stamp, a disposable asset for powerful nobles who were tearing the empire apart for their own gain. The rapid succession, from Farrukh Sir to RAFI UD Darajat, and then to his brother, showed the world that the once mighty Mughal throne was now a revolving door, and the empire was spiraling into chaos. Thank you for joining me on this look into the brief and tragic rule of RAFI UD. It's a sobering reminder that power is not always held by the one who wears the crown. If you found this interesting, please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll look at the reign of his equally short-lived successor. See you next time.